Alright, you guys, so for our goal today, we need to take, what kind of form is this?
Quadratic.
It's standard form of a quadratic, and we need to turn it into,
Wait, write this down.
yeah. This is the entire point of the next 15 minutes. We need to take standard form, and we need to learn how to turn it into vertex form, because vertex form is much easier to graph. So this is standard form. This is vertex form. That's our goal. 15 minutes, we're going to get that done, okay? So here's our first example. It's x squared plus 8x minus 20. It is in standard form. We need to do something we learned last class. We learned how to complete the square and write it in vertex form, okay? So first step, rename f of x as y and move the constant to the other side of the equation. So I'm going to kind of scroll down and do this down at the bottom as we go. So instead of f of x, I'm going to call it y. So y equals x squared plus 8x minus 20. So I'll kind of write the steps off to the side. These are the steps that go with it. So first step, rename f of x as y. We know that's just the outputs. And then it also says to move the constant to the other side of the equation. So which of these terms is the constant term?
20.
The negative 20. So I'm going to add that to the other side of the equation. So now I have y plus 20 equals x squared plus 8x. Basically, is 20 a perfect square?
Nope.
No. So 20 was not working for us. So we say, hey, 20, get out of here. And we kick it over to the other side of the equation. Okay? So our goal, if you remember from last class, is to take vertex form. We need the same number twice, right? Like if we get a perfect square trinomial and we get the same thing twice, what can we write it as?
Squared.
Whatever that factor is squared. And that's our goal for vertex form. So 20 was not doing it for us. So what we need to do, we need to come up with a new number. So let's go on to the second step. It says factor out any coefficient of x squared. So you need to know this vocabulary. What's a coefficient? The number in front of the x squared. And what is there currently?
1.
A 1. And that's the best case scenario. We want that. Now, if it was a 2 or a 3 or a negative 1 or a negative 2, we'd have to factor it out. We'll see that in the next example. But for now, that's actually good to go. We don't need to do step 2. So we're going to skip to step 3. And step 3 says step 3 here. Put a blank on both sides of the equation. We actually did this earlier in the year with circles. Do you remember doing this?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go y plus 20, and then I'm going to put a blank. Equals x squared plus 8x, and then I'm going to put a blank. Now 20 wasn't doing it for us, right? But we can come up with a number that will work for us. We can put anything on one side of the equation as long as we do it on the other side as well. So now we do what we did last class. So step 4 says to complete the square, and our formula for that is b divided by 2 squared. So what is our b value of this quadratic on the right side of the equation? It's 8. So we take 8, we divide it by 2. What's 8 divided by 2? 4 squared is 16. But if we do it to one side, we need to do it to the other side. Okay, scrolling back up. We'll come back to this red statement in a second. Read it real quick. Read the red statement on your own. It's very important. It's going to come up next lesson or next slide.
Oh, okay.
So 5, simplify the left side and factor the right side. So when we go back down here now, what is y plus 20 plus 16? The left
Y
side.
plus 36.
Oh.
Y plus 20 plus 16.
36.
Y plus 36 equals, and now it says to go ahead and factor the right side. We purposefully made it a perfect square trinomial. So the factors of 16 that add up to 8 should be the same number twice. What is it?
X plus 4.
X plus 4 times x plus 4. And as you get more comfortable with this, you probably know that. How are we going to rewrite that?
X plus 4 squared.
X plus 4 squared. So the last step says to do so and subtract the 36 back to the right side. So now we're going to have x plus 4 squared. And then if I subtract the 36 back out here, we'll just have a minus 36 out back, which is actually what we want, right? We want that number out back because this is vertex form. It's our HK form. Whoa.
Yeah, what about the A value?
The A value is just 1, which is okay for this problem. You'll see it different on the next problem. But now we can answer all those questions we did last class on our whiteboards. Remember doing the whiteboards and holding it up? So what is the vertex of this quadratic now that we have it in factored form?
-4, -36.
The opposite of this number, good, so -4, and this number exactly as you see it. Okay, what is the AOS, the axis of symmetry? X equals the x value of the vertex, which is -4. And then we could actually very easily come up with the y-intercept. And if you remember, y-intercept is actually easiest in standard form. So if you go back up to the original problem, if you plug in 0 for x, cancel, what's my y-intercept? -20. Now if we write it as a point, a coordinate, over 0, down 20. So now we can come up with all of these graphing concepts very easily that we have both forms.
What about the X?
The x-intercepts are the... Actually, they wouldn't be pretty because it would... Well, yeah, they would.
It'd be
What factors of -20 add up to 8?
X.
If you factor the original problem, so it'd be -2 plus 10, right? That means the x-intercepts are 2. It's really laggy once there's a lot of writing on the page. -10. So you could also come up with those from the original problem. Okay? All right. We're going to do this one together, and then we're going to do one on your own, and then we'll be done for today. Okay, so first step, rename f of x as y, and subtract the 3 over. So we're going to have y minus 3 equals -x squared plus 2x. All right, step 2 says to factor out any a value other than +1. So anything other than +1, we need to factor out. So what is a's current value? It's -1. That's not good. We need it to be positive, just like we did with circles at the beginning of the year. So I'm going to factor out a -1, and basically that's just going to flip the signs, right? So now it'll be minus 2x. Positive x squared minus 2x. You're just going to factor the a value out of the right side. Now that's not changing the right side, right? I didn't change the right side, so it's not like you need to do that to the left side as well. I'm just writing it in a different form. Okay, now we put blanks on both sides. So we go y minus 3, and I'm going to put a blank, equals -1. Now the blank goes inside of the parentheses, because we're completing the quadratic, right? So the quadratic is on the inside of the parentheses. So we go x squared minus 2x, and then we're going to put a blank on the inside of the parentheses. Okay, next, b divided by 2 squared. So what is b? It's -2. -2 divided by 2 is what? -1. But when you multiply -1 times itself, we get +1. If you do it to one side, you have to do it to the other side. I will tell you that that is wrong. We just did something wrong. I'll tell you that this is right. That is definitely right, +1. However, this is wrong. And if you go back to that slide, and I told you to read that red sentence, read it real quick again. Don't forget that the A value affects the blank in the parentheses. So if you think about it, I didn't really just add 1 to the right side. If you think if I distribute this back through, what is that going to be? Yeah, really I subtracted 1 from the right side. So I need to go back over here, and I need to do -1. You have to remember the A value. The A value affects the blank, the completed square. But now, we're smooth sailing. The rest is easy. So what is y -3 -1? And then -1 is just going to chill out front. That's our A value. How does x squared minus 2x plus 1 factor? It's going to be the same number twice. X minus 1 times x minus 1, also known as x minus 1 squared.
+4.
And then we just need to add the 4 over to the back side. So we go y equals -1, x minus 1 squared, and then the 4 is added out back. That's our k value.
You don't have to write -1. You can just write negative.
Yeah, you can just put negative. So now let's answer our questions. What is the vertex of this parabola? 1, 4. The equation of the AOS is always x equals the x value of the vertex. And does this quadratic parabola shape open up or down? Down. We had a different A value this time. So that means it opens down. Was it stretched or compressed?
No.
No, because it was a 1, -1. But if it was like -2, we know that that parabola is a little bit stretched by 2. Okay? So now that you've seen the one with a different A value, I want you to go ahead and do this one on your own. So we rename it as y, subtract the 7 over, equals 2x squared plus 8x. Okay, my next step, I would factor a 2 out of the right side, which is going to divide both of these terms by 2. Okay, now we go y minus 7 blank equals 2 x squared plus 4x blank. And what does b divided by 2 squared come out to? 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 times itself is plus 4. Now I always do this one first. This one's definitely plus 4. But really, I didn't add 4 to the right side. How much did I add to the right side?
8.
Yeah, 8, because you have to take the A value into account. That's 8. So you need to add 8 to the left side. Was that your question, Emily? So now, when I simplify the right side, I get -7 plus 8 equals 2. And then how does this factor?
X plus 2 squared.
X plus 2 times itself. Subtract the 1 over. So your final answer, 2 times x plus 2, quantity squared, minus 1. What's the vertex? -2, -1. What's the AOS? X equals -2. Does it open up or down? Was it stretched or compressed? Stretched by 2.